my parents were hardworking. They got up. My mom's a school teacher, and my dad, he'd get up at 6 a.m., wouldn't see him to 7 o'clock at night. He worked for somebody again and again. He didn't have anything to show for it. I was just like, why don't you do something about it? Hey, for the next generations of my family, I don't want that to happen. I'm going to take action and learn to it. And so everything I kind of set to do had an end result. It was like, okay, is this going to lead me to that ultimate goal? Am I going to surround myself with those people to help me get to that goal?
Were there times when you were basically saying like, screw it all, I should just do what my dad did?
No, never.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jack Bosch Show, where we talk about all things real estate, finance, and entrepreneurship. At least those are most favorite subjects here. My guest today is Craig Cecilio. He lives in San Diego, and he has raised over $1 billion in capital, involved in all kinds of different entrepreneurship activities, and serial entrepreneur. Well, welcome to the show, Craig.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. So let's jump right into it. Give us a quick overview about what you do and what you and why you enjoy it and why you're in this industry.
Yeah, we could go way back to, I would say it'd be my childhood, growing up in a working class family on the East Coast. Mother was a school teacher, father was in retail. Always like looking at why some of my friends had fancy trips, better cars, better things in life than I did, and started asking questions as I got older, and then started realizing where my parents were in life. And then I made a decision at an early age, I think it was even before high school, that I was going to dedicate to myself, to learning how it is to be wealthy. And that just put me on my journey and gave me the mindset. And lo and behold, after school, I ended up in San Diego, California, in a town called La Jolla. Best thing that happened to me, just took a couple odd jobs, did my best at those jobs, and I was able to have some eyes on some mentors that I was able to network with at an early age. I'm like 23 years old. One guy was a real estate developer. He was doing condo conversions in southern San Diego County. And the other one was a solvency attorney who structured a lot of deals, raised capital, and built a lot of real estate hedge funds. And so I had just enormous amount of knowledge given to me pre-internet days, right? Pre-cell phone days, pre-social media days. And I was learning from these guys and how it worked behind the scenes. And so, yeah, that's where my career started taking off and started doing deals and structuring deals and really started coming out of the gates doing the hard stuff first, because these guys really knew what they were talking about. New development, land entitlement. Back then, there's condo conversions going on. So that laid the foundation for me. And then with everything else over time, adapted and evolved. And when I got to a point where I saw some of the changes from the Jobs Act 2012 and saw an opportunity for me to open up my platform to anyone, regardless of being accredited or non-accredited. I took that chance because that kind of touched home for me, because we are basically a non-accredited family. And to give back to everyone else, I opened up a platform that allows anyone to invest regardless of your socioeconomic background. And here I am, a few years later, let's call it, a few decades later, over 40,000 retail investors, about $1 billion I've raised over the years, and seen a lot of different market cycles and a lot of different transactions. So it's been quite a journey. Yeah.
So 40,000 investors invest $1 billion. So how is that? You mentioned you have a fund, and you feel free to mention the name of the fund. What's the name of it?
Diversity Fund.
Diversity Fund. Wonderful. Yes. So we'll link into that. And diversity is with Y. If you said 40,000 investors, so is that a crowdfunding platform then?
It evolved out of crowdfunding, all that, how it came. And I'm I would say I'm an expert in this area of all the regulations and how it works and different terminology. If I use the wrong terminology, I could be fined right now. So some of our funds have regulation A, some are Reg D accredited funds. We've done raises with Regulation CF. They're just how all these nuances to it. And I had to deal with that. Different administrations. You had Democratic administration passing law in 12, and then you had later on what they were doing enforcers in 2020 to 24. So it's kind of awkward and seeing how politically things kind of shift and make it harder for us to do it.
So what happened there? So somebody put something in place in 2012. Let's talk about that. What happened in 2012?
It was the Dodd-Frank Act, and it came out of the Great Recession, and they wanted to open up opportunities for everyone, give more opportunities to people, because everyone got really hit hard during that time period. And then it kind of took off, and a lot of businesses were formed out of that. Crowdfunding as an industry took off from that. Really was explosive, and then crypto came right after it, right? It was like, boom, out of nowhere, crypto came. I think a lot of people jumped off the bandwagon and went onto crypto. And then down that road, everything kind of lumped together by all the regulators into like one kind of, you're selling a type of security to someone online. So the enforcement came in under the Biden administration pretty forcefully, I would say, at the end of the day. And now here we are, we're entering a new environment today with a new president starting next week about going to office. Very interested to see what's going to happen with that. I think it's going to be less of a regulatory environment, and it's going to be something that we have to look into, especially as investors, and how the markets are going to shift.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, with the, what do they call it? The Department of Government Simplification or whatever it's called, that they put Elon Musk and the other guy in, that should be interesting what they're slashing in terms of regulations. But let's go back. So you've created basically a funding platform, and how does that work? So what do you find the deals and then you use it to fund things, or do people come to you with deals and you help them fund it? How do you currently, is that the main focus of your business activities these days?
Yeah, it's a couple of my focuses. So mainly how we worked is we're vertically integrated. We do our own deals. At the end of the day, if you're in the industry, capital is essential to running the engine in the industry. And so we're experts at raising capital, and we're able to make a much more revenue by doing our own deals. We're 20 properties throughout the U.S. geographically. I'm in California, from California to the Carolinas, to Florida, Texas, New Mexico, Utah. So California, of course. So we're across the U.S. with that. It's almost set and forget as a company now, because we built it up. And with time, I've also started doing some online courses, teaching people how to raise capital and coaching them. Because I do believe there's a science behind it. The more I had to develop my companies over the years, the art form has changed more to a scientific approach to raising capital. And so I figured, hey, I might as well, instead of raising capital for other people, let me go out and teach people how to raise capital for those of you who may have an interest learning that skill set.
So can you shed a little bit light on what's the scientific formula behind it?
Oh, the secret sauce. So you got to take my course to get the whole thing. But there's a process. Each and every one of us has.
Here's what I learned. You can give the full secret sauce away. And most people, what it does is it wants them to work, that makes them want to work with you even more, because most people, it's not that they don't know the secret sauce, it's that they don't know how to implement the secret sauce. Right?
Yeah. And
for example, we teach land flipping. Our land flipping strategy is everywhere out there. Somebody wants to. I think 15 years ago, I put an article series of 100 articles out there on the internet. There's YouTube videos. There's all kinds of stuff. Anyone can piecemeal this all together and put it together, the full thing. But the people who do that value time over money, value money over time, right? So they rather spend 100 hours piecemealing it together than to invest in shortening the time period. And that's not our customers anyway. So I want the customers that are committed to learning in a fast time, and that don't value information, but value implementation. So I didn't mean to offend you to ask you but the point is like perhaps you can give us some pointers to it.
Yeah, I'll give you the number one thing. The number one thing is you have to take a personalized approach to it. We're all different. So what works for me it may not work for you. I can give you some structure, and how does it apply to you? So the biggest thing is, where are you in your journey? Are you 18? Are you 60? It doesn't make a difference where you are on the pendulum of ages. It doesn't make you a difference of where you are on your experience level. There is a way to package it properly when you're trying to seek capital. So a lot of that's like getting to know you. Where are you? Are you young? Are you old? Are you experienced? You're inexperienced. And so you got to kind of figure it out, what's the best angle. So if you're a little bit inexperienced, you might want to lead with a deal more, make sure that deal is a really good deal. It's more of a conservative, it can't miss deal, and get that track record going. And you can also maybe just partner with someone and have a partner in there that has a little bit more experience to take away the operator risk. So it's very personalized in how to get there. And so that's my whole thing, is like, you are capable of doing it at the end of the day. There is a way for everyone. And how do we personalize that plan for you? There's some basics, right? You need to go figure out who you're going to approach and how you can present your material. But at the end of the day, you need to present it yourself if you're doing it. And you have to be able to answer the questions that are presented to you. So you have to have that confidence. And so I broke it down with science and personalized it for people and how to do it. If you're older too, it's like, hey, it's whatever you might have more experience or something. Does that mean it's going to be easier for you? It may in some cases it may not. So you just kind of have to dig into it and see, first of all, what's the product you're selling? They're looking at two things at the end of the day. But more importantly, I think most people are looking at one thing, and they're looking at yourself. They're looking at, hey, do you have the confidence? Do you have that it factor, that relentlessness to pursue your vision to relentlessly again and again and again? So if you could inspire the person and communicate to them that you're the right person, your chances of getting a capital should greatly increase.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That I 100% agree with that. People at the end of the day, well, sophisticated people look at, and everyone should look at both the deal, if it's a deal-based investment, or the concept, if it's a concept-based fund or so. And obviously very, very, very happily the operator or the person that actually asks you for the money to make sure that because you're still, at the end of the day, a mediocre investment run by excellent people can turn out better than an excellent investment run by a bunch of bozos, right? So the bunch of bozos are going to run even the best investment into the ground, and or steal the money and go somewhere else. The people that have high integrity, they are professionals, they're experts, they're experienced. They're going to figure out how to make something that's difficult still worthwhile. So the people you invest in is very, very important. So I agree. So if you want to raise money, you got to come across as somebody, and you got to be, not just come across, but you got to be knowledgeable. Yeah, and anyone can do that, because that's studying. Right? That's knowing the details of the thing. That's having a good plan, and that's having the right partners. That if something comes up, you have the answers. You have the contingencies in place. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and another thing I did is I broke down to like 5 investor categories too. It's just my version of it. And the first one's yourself. You self-fund, get a bank loan. That's kind of the first level. Number 2, everyone calls it this way. This is my term: fools and family. Right? There's something there. Do you want to do it? That's up to you, but there's warnings about using friends and family for a capital raise. Number 3 is the retail investors, the general public. With all these, like we use this crowdfunding platforms and all these new regulations, you could tap into 100 million Americans for funding. So there's all this regulation out there. You can do it. That, I think, is the sweet spot. How do you do that? Whether they're accredited or non-accredited, you could tap into that. Then the next level up is most of us gravitate to the professional investors, the sophisticated investors. So you might hear the word, if you're raising a company, a seed investor, angel investor. Those people are professional investors. They're looking at your deal and 19 other deals, and they're going to get the deal that best serves them, not you. And then the last one is the institutional investor. Again, those guys is another level, right? You got to build relationships there. We could laugh about that one. So it's like, who are you targeting? And then how do you tailor your message to that group of people? And so that's the easier way, that how I broke it down. And then you kind of create your strategy and plan around that.
No, that's very smart, because they all do have different levels of information needs, different levels of reporting needs, different sophisticated. They ask different questions, and they're interested in very different kind of deals. Like, for example, we teach land flipping, as I mentioned, and our students, if they have a $200,000 deal, they might need funding for that, but that's a completely different model. They shouldn't go to an institutional investor. They shouldn't go to an angel investor. They probably need to go to friends and family. And it's probably not even worth going to the 100 million people, because it's too much bureaucracy effort to set this all up. They just need somebody to give them a loan to take that property down, do what they need to do it, and sell it for $600,000 again once they're done with it. Yeah. So it's all different. Each one, you got to tailor it differently. You're right. So correct. Agree with you. Yeah. So how did you get, you mentioned that you started with some mentors and the condo conversions and land developments and things like that. But how did you get into the money raising kind of space, and what in that space actually attracts you? What's the thing that you're like, you could have stepped into the shoes of the the condo conversion guy and done condo conversions. You could have stepped into the shoes of a real estate like developer, and you probably do some of that, perhaps. Or have you stepped into all of the shoes? But what particularly about the funding is attractive to you?
I got exposed to it just at like a ripe age, that age where I was just thirsty and hunger to learn as much as possible. And then just recognized how they were doing well. And then some big names in my town that today, years later, now I understand why they're big names. This is how they made a lot of their wealth. So it kind of just, that was the magnet to me. This is what they did to create wealth for themselves and their families, generational.
So they
wealth.
Raised money or they developed?
They did both, in understanding the relationship between the two. And just being exposed to that at an early age, and just understand the relationship of raising money and developing stuff, and how that worked and how it all came together, all the pieces. And you don't learn that really in a book. Maybe if you go work for an organization, it might take you 10, 20 years where you see all the pieces to run that organization, because they usually have different departments. I was just exposed to it and understood. I saw it. I had like that aha moment. Oh, this is how it works. I need to have all these skill sets. And I didn't have the skill sets when I started. So I had to go out and like lean into it and develop those skills. Yeah, it was.
So how do you characterize the relationship between funding and developing? Or so what's more important? What comes first? How's the balance between the two of them? So if somebody says like, well, that's cool, I want to figure that out. What is more important? What comes first?
It's like the chicken or the egg. That's a tough one. Good put me on a spot. The relationship is so tight between the two, because if you have this great deal, right, you should be able to get funding that serves you the best and your project the best, not the other person. So understanding that relationship, because you can have a great deal, you could have all that acumen to build it out, and then you can't figure out the funding, and then you're just a real estate agent at the end of the day. You're just, maybe you flop the property and assign it to somebody else. So really being a developer is kind of being able to manage all those parts and pieces coming together. There is an investor raising capital component and an investor relations component to doing that. And that's really, it's a business in itself. So you need to have that part to it. Otherwise, it's going to be incomplete. If you're looking at not just the project level, but at the high level of running a successful for yourself, getting a successful return for yourself.
So what's the message to the audience here? The message: don't just look for the deal, but in parallel, make sure you hone your skills on capital raising, because otherwise you have a deal and somebody comes in and wants a bigger piece that you should be giving because you don't have much choices because you haven't built that skill yet.
Develop those resources, right? Develop the resources. Do you have somebody you build a relationship with that gives you a line of credit, right? And that anytime you find something, like you were talking about 200,000, it's a good example. Do you have someone in a Rolodex you call up in 1 second? Hey, will they give you a loan, like 100% financing on that? You could build that relationship. I did. Or you call someone up, it's a JV split. Okay, I'll give you 200 grand, but it's a 50-50 split. So what do you want to do? Do you want to pay maybe the 12% interest, or do you want to do the 50-50 split? That's kind of up to you if you take that chance, and understanding the pros and cons of both. They're your source of capital. Do you use some of your own money? Maybe you put some skin in the game yourself. Just understanding how that all works. Because if you're doing a loan and it's a high interest loan, you don't want to really hang on to that too long, right? So what's your exit to that project? But if it's equity, and you communicate it correctly with your investor, you might want to go, okay, let me hang on to this a little bit longer. There might be greater upside, just kind of depending on that. And I have a story to share. I had a friend of mine who just wanted to buy a piece of, it's kind of like land, a developed area. He saw it, had a barn on it, and he was all excited about it. He was raising capital, and I was helping him out doing it. It turns out that the broker in the deal didn't tell him he needed to get permits through Coastal Commission. He's thinking it's a quick turnaround for his investors. Now his investors are stuck in the deal an extra year. And I'm not even sure if he could build the whole thing out, because it's to go through permits in the Coastal Commission. If you've done the Coastal Commission here in California, there'll be a lot of stories about this after the Malibu fires about the Coastal Commission. But let me say, it's not the easiest process to get through. And most likely they don't approve the majority of the projects. So, and he thought with those investors, it's going to be a quick turnaround. So now he's got, a customer investor relations issue because of that. So you could see how you got to match your investors to the investment and make sure you do your due diligence. Things do pop up at the end of the day that now could suck time and resources into dealing with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about that. You're in California. So I also do multifamily investments. I've done a lot of land deals in California, but quick flip land deals, land wholesale deals, deals that I bought for $3,000 and sold for $20,000, deals that I bought for 25, sold for 60, and things like that. That's all simple because it's all cash deals, no financing, no development, no entitlements, nothing. Just like buy, flip, sell, thing, fine. Developing California or even multifamily purchasing in California, I have kept my fingers away from all of that because it's California. It's the Social Republic of California, as I like to call it. And while it has the best weather in the country, it has the worst politics in the country, in my opinion. So with that said, or some of the worst regulations, probably along with New York. So you do development deals? I mean, you got your feet wet and earned your ropes in California and San Diego. Is a lot of your deals in California?
I have my wins and losses in California, right? So agree with you. I have some great wins, some great losses. Today, our portfolio is probably 10% California, and the rest is out the area, a Sunbelt region predominantly. That's just where we are.
Is that because of regulatory environments?
Yeah, I would say that the pricing wasn't great.
Pricing, yes.
And those markets had a lot of people moving into it, good sound market fundamentals to invest into them, the Carolinas, Florida, Texas. Yeah. And I do have a couple deals in California that are actually some of my best ones, and that's just being here a long time. And those are, I would say, one was a partnership that was blowing up, and I just been in the industry long enough that they knew me and I was able to step in. Another one was just a part of California that people, for whatever reason, there wasn't a lot of bids on it, and I got it. And what's really smoking about that is the parking lot is zoned for 100 units. So I'm building that out too. Because you know how it is at the end of the day, the lands, I have zero cost for the land, right? So
that's correct. That's
and
right.
That one's in a market that I think only 50 new units have been built in the last 5 years. So supply is, basic supply and demand for that one. Those are exceptions, though. We
have a land deal on a contract right now up closer to Sacramento, California, in a growing area. 26 acres, already zoned multifamily, already zoned for 524 units, I think, that can be put on there. But it still is a longer than usual process because you got to get you got to fight not fight, but you got to work with the environmentalists. You got to work to the rare plant species, probably the rare animal species. You got to do all this kind of different things before you finally allowed to do this. While many other areas in many other states, it's much simpler. But hey, it's still worth it because it's a really good deal. Similar properties in the area are listed for 3 times as much money than the deal we got, and that they're in the same stage of development than ours. So we are very positively. We are very excited about it, but we know it's probably going to take us 1.5 years to get the thing through an entitlement process, if not longer.
Yeah, that's a process. That is a process.
But we have the agreement of the sellers to have escrow because they know they're dealing in California. So the sellers are willing to wait, so we don't even have to buy it until we have everything approved. So that's a good thing, and so it's. The financial exposure is fairly limited, other than, of course, the money we put into all these tests. That's going to be gone if it fails. But that's just the risk of doing business.
Yeah, I had one like that, similar. I think it was back in 2006, and the whole area was like flat, and then everyone was building around Lennar, KB, and then we had this parcel negotiated with the owner. We did a 1-year escrow. At the time, we did a pro forma based on 19 homes, and took us 1 year, and the city came back and said 15 homes. So we just, the numbers didn't work with 15 homes, so we had to walk away. It was just our cost, maybe $100,000 in costs at the end of the day, just to go through the process. But that's similar. I like that. Doing that is, when you don't really have that certainty that you can get what you want on the property, it's minimal. And maybe to some people that's a big loss. So it's not really over that time period. You're giving it $5,000 or $6,000 more people hours than anything else. But you have to base your pro forma on something. And if those numbers don't come in, of course, you're not going to take it all the way to fruition.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you have done some land deals too. Tell me about those. What like some what since our audience is very interested in land, let's talk a little bit about some land deals.
Yeah, that was a deal. That was one that we didn't do. That didn't go according to plan. Another deal I remember on Beverly Hills. It was on a hilltop. I forget the name of the street. Again, a lot of people part of this transaction, and there are, oh, you could build this. I think it was like 6 homes up there. Today they're all like $100 million homes, right? Well, today there's a home, right? So today there is land available, and so I went in, and I wasn't really sure about the entitlements. So I went in, and this is the mapping, and I went into the LA County, and it's a huge building. I spent probably a day there in the back office. They're really nice to me. I don't know. You hear horror stories. I've gone in plenty of times to these government departments and gotten everything I needed, almost like every time.
Oh, they're the nicest people in the world. They're just not creative. They're not out of the box thinkers. Like I've spent a combined year probably in county offices because we started this 22 years ago, and back in the days, there was no online data for land. You had to get to the assessor, the tax collector, and literally get them to burn CDs for you and walk out of the CDs. You had to go through microfiche and things like that. But they're the nicest people in the world. But God forbid you ask for something that is not something that they get asked every single day, and they're like, doesn't exist. We don't know. And so you have to really be like patient and bring them cookies and help them. They're the sweetest people in the world. That they're just not meant for anything other than working in the county and doing repeated business every single day. And I would die in that role, but they're nice people. They're very nice people. They mean well.
Yeah. And on that transaction, I dove in archives. They said it had a final map. It wasn't even at the tentative map, with just stage. It was just so beyond being ready to build. So, and everyone's evaluating it based on the final map, meaning that's ready for permits the next stage. And so I had to walk away from that one. Had another smaller one that was listed on the MLS. Said you could build 2 homes on it. So I was evaluating it. It was a really great lot. It was more in San Diego, like kind of Rancho Santa Fe area here. It's a very affluent area. Dove down into it, building all around it. I'm like, this is great. You could split the lot. You could build 2 homes. And then went down again, went to the city, asked them some questions, and I got a copy of the white paper. And in there, the city said, okay, it could be split into 2 lots only if you could get a pump station there. It couldn't be septic; it had to be a pump station. So then I went out for pricing on the pump station. It was like $1 million, and you had to have all the neighbors in this neighborhood had to approve it. I'm like, okay. And the guy, it was for sale for 1.2 million, and I'm like, okay. It's now I had to evaluate that based on just what it was, and what it was is just one single lot, and my valuation came to like 400,000. So I walk away from that deal. So,
and I think that's just happens, and that's just something really important to highlight here. That as you go into and that's why for many years I stuck with what we do best, which is getting $100,000 piece of land for 40 grand and selling it for 70 again, and making a quick 30 grand, and do that 5,000 times, and that works too. But as you go up the ladder and into more and more of these more complicated development deals, not every deal will pan out, and you got to put some time and some resources into checking them out. But when they pan out, the bucks can be really, really big. Right?
Yeah, really big.
So,
yeah.
do you have any kind of success stories on that end of where you have made like really good bucks?
I could say one of the ones we're building right now was 20 units. We tore it down. We're building 71 units. It's just insane. That's
a great deal. Yeah.
Insane.
That wasn't
value.
easy to get. That wasn't easy to get to the permitting process probably either, but it's the valuation, the value add must be insane. Yeah.
Yeah. This one a little early, easier because later in life I've kind of built that muscle up and have the right players to do it. That was an easy one to do. And then I think there's another one I own myself right now that I'm entitling right now because I own the land on it. So I don't care how long that takes. That's a smoking deal where I purchased something that part of the property I could build on. That one, for whatever reason, I don't know why that when we bought it, it didn't get any bump in value for that. I bought it at a good price. So that's a
Right.
steal for us on that one.
As
Those are
they say,
some recent ones right now.
the deal of the lifetime comes along once a year if you look for it. Right. So if you're really in the game, looking at deals on an ongoing basis, there is smoking deals available in every market. They just don't come along if you don't do anything. They just come along if you're in the game, if you understand the numbers, if you have the relationships, and so on. So this is really cool. Now, congratulations to your success. What do you think was the driver? You said something very early, very interesting early on, and you said that you decided that you want to become wealthy. What happened? What drove that decision? How did that come?
That it was easy. It was childhood. It was just growing up in childhood and just seeing how my parents were hardworking. They got up. My mom's a school teacher, and my dad, he'd get up at 6 a.m. Wouldn't see him to 7 o'clock at night. He worked for somebody again and again. He didn't have anything to show for it. He was always complaining that he didn't have an opportunity to do anything, and so just kind of that every single day coming home and being upset with that. I was just like, why don't you do something about it? And so I think part of that was maybe me taking the baton and saying, hey, for the next generations of my family, I don't want that to happen. I'm going to take action and learn to it. And I think it was a profound impact, my childhood on that and for my decisions. So everything I kind of set to do had an end result. It was like, okay, is this going to lead me to that ultimate goal? Am I going to surround myself with those people to help me get to that goal? And so
in that process, were there times when you were basically saying like, screw it all, I should just do what my dad did?
No, never. My head was always do it the opposite. It was always that way. Yeah. Since I was a kid. Yeah, it was always that way. I never had that doubt. I was just like, okay, just keep going ahead. So that's just me. I just always, I always figure out there's a way you can learn something. And today is incredible. Today's environment, there's so many avenues where you can learn.
Yeah.
I wish I had this many opportunities. Yeah, it's great.
No, I ask that because sometimes, particularly in the teaching environment, there's people that have been so ingrained with what I want to call poverty mindset that even though they want to break out of it, it's freaking hard for them to get outside of that, to get out of these trained thought patterns of like, the rich are evil. Oh no, they just want to take advantage of me. Oh no, I'm asked to do something for free. Oh no, they should pay me instead of it. And it's like that combination of victim mentality and kind of like poverty mindset. And even then they're trying to break out this like, no, that's not this. And they go try it. As soon as something goes wrong or enough things go wrong, which obviously always, because something goes wrong when you start, they get almost overwhelmed by these thoughts and they retreat back and they go negative and things like that. And that happens when I see it, and it's like, and I was just curious, obviously, if you had those times, because kind of it's if when you grow up in an environment that is not like that. And my dad is a retired high school teacher. Same thing, one salary. I always got the recommendation: go become a teacher. Go become a teacher. It's a safe thing. It's like go have the government pay for your salary. You can. It's in Germany where I'm from originally. Teachers are tenured, so you can't even be fired. So it's like go get a teacher job and so on, and you'll save for life. But at the same time, there's a ceiling, and I didn't want to have a ceiling, so. But with that said, there's obviously trying times in between there, and I had the same experience as you. I never doubted, but I never doubted the journey, but I doubted the days up and down as they come on. So I was just, what do you say to somebody that is in that journey of like where they've been so ingrained? What do you tell them to break out of that? Did you do anything to keep in that positive mindset, or did you just naturally say like, screw it, I'm there?
Yeah, a lot of it was natural, and I can articulate what that is right now. But when I was doing it, really, I didn't have the words. I think a lot more is focused on using and expressing words today than it used to be. I call it like that uncomfortable space. Is get comfortable with the uncomfortable. So we have a natural predisposition. So when we have that anxiety build up, we want to run away from that anxiety and now accept it, embrace it, and understand that's where the learning comes from. It could be anything in life. That's where the real learning comes in. Be a conversation, doing something new. It could be going to the gym, right? It could be a lot of things. is just accept that anxiety, that feeling. It's like, notice that, like, yeah, now you're getting outside your box a little bit, lean into it, embrace it, and just understand, well, this is good for you, and don't run away from it. And that's opposite what your body is telling you. Your body's telling you to run. So that's what I could share with people. It's like, when you get that feeling, that's where the growth comes in.
Great. Huge item here, right there. Get comfortable with the uncomfortable, because let me tell you that when you go into entrepreneurship, you will be uncomfortable more often than you like to. Right?
Oh yeah.
So if you can relax into the fact that you uncomfortable, that's a winning formula. Thank you very much for that. That's huge. Yes. Great. So how can we help you? How can I help you? How can our audience? What do you want to share? Is there a place where people go? Can people learn from you? You said you teach them how to raise capital. What can I do for you?
Yeah, I mean, just check out my social handles. I got a lot going on, always pumping content out. I'm big into this content world nowadays. It's a new thing for myself. I'm getting uncomfortable doing a lot of postings, so starting doing that. I do a lot of different things. So whether you're into personal improvement, you want to learn about raising capital, or if you want to invest into something, I have different platforms for everybody. CXC is my initials. Craig Cecilio is my name. I'm pretty easy to find online. Instagram, I'd say LinkedIn are the top two where people reach out to me.
Okay, wonderful. Great. So guys, if you want to learn how to raise capital, reach out. If you want to check out his social media profile, you've built up a 6-figure following on social media, which is obviously, congratulations. That's huge. And with that said, any last words you want to leave us with today?
Yeah, the one thing I always like to say to people, I said earlier about, yourself, I'm really a big firm believer of just constantly taking action. And I have an acronym, do, learn, grow. So always take action, learn from it, because that's where the growth comes in.
Do, learn, grow. That's it. I love that. And I love the sequence of it. Do, learn from it, and then grow from it. Versus there's many people out there that's like, they want to learn first, then want to grow. No, it starts with action. Do, learn, grow. I'm going to actually take that now. Do, learn, grow. Wonderful. Well, with that said, thank you very much, Craig, for being on the show. With that said, that's a wrap. As always, give us that 5-star review, share it with your friends, subscribe to us, hit that if you're on YouTube. Well, hit the notification button, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Thanks. Bye-bye.